All right. We're going to go with this picture for the background because I did a previous review and apparently YouTube is not going to let that one fly. I had to go back to see why, because it was getting age restricted. And I was like, I know I was showing off one of the gore scenes, not all of it, but just like a little piece of it, because it reminded me of one of my favorite movies, The Thing. And it was the autopsy scene in The Thing where they were standing around looking at this mangled mess of a body, and it was a similar scene like that in this. And I was thinking, man, that's really cool, and yada yada yada. When I went to view it on second viewing to see what could possibly be the problem with the video, there's like a little hidden pecker off to the side. So I guess he's all mangulated. He's all mangled, but he's got his old pecker there. But anyway, we're going to do this a little bit shorter. I think that video clocked in at like 37 minutes. Jeez, I don't know why I was talking that much. I'll make this a little bit shorter to cut right to the point. This is Antlers. I was excited about this a while ago, but it didn't show. It got delayed, and then it didn't show in my area. So I bought it on Blu-ray. I figured I'll eventually do a deep breakdown of it because it looked good. I was betting it was going to be really good. I enjoy the cinematography of this a lot. The town, the characters, the world, the angles, where how they capture some of the shots. A lot of that I do really, really like. The authenticity with the town and the people and the grime and the dirt and this, just the community as a whole. It's one of those, slow burn, ultra gritty and realistic environmental stories within this. There's a mythical beast within this, but all that is fantastic. It's just there's three elements that kind of slow it down for me. One is the tension between the brother and sister. It really feels like there was a producer that had a lot of pull, and they were demanding parts of the movie go like this when it came to the sister, or something, as an example. And because that person was forcing stuff in, it felt like it didn't belong. Like there's moments where I had to go back and rewatch it. The sister just felt like an asshole, And I even went back and rewatched it again, and she is an asshole. Especially one conversation, and she's all like, high and mighty. And the brother is like, yo, you have no idea what he did to me, bro. And she just walks off mad instead of the character coming to the realization like, oh, shit, and having a moment or something. Maybe I'm misinterpreting the moment because she just seems like a piece of shit, Just because you have a damaged past doesn't mean you can pretend like you're the only friggin' one. And anyway, so that's number one, the forced backstory, because it feels like the only reason she has a damaged backstory is because your hero needs to be damaged, but also it's childhood abuse, and the kid, the lead here in present day, is going through neglect, a father that's a drug addict, a meth addict, and yada, yada, yada. So they needed that to correspond, which is something that I don't agree with. You don't have to have the same background for a teacher to recognize a student needs help and they're in a bad state. Anyhow, the other thing is the creature. When it comes to creature features, the Predator from Predator and Predators and The Predator and Alien vs. Predator, Alien, speaking of aliens, the alien or the xenomorph, that's a better way to put it, or the Yautja from Predator. Those creatures look amazing in the daylight, in the nighttime. They look amazing when you're blasting a light on it, or if it's cloaked in darkness. Now, obviously, in the older movies, they were using practical suits, so they like to hide the imperfections in the shadows. That made a lot of sense, but the actual design of these creatures looks awesome. You can get a statue of Predator, or the Yautja. You can get a statue of the Xenomorph, put it in your office, and it looks amazing. This is a little itty-bitty stylized one, but, I mean, you set it on your desk and it looks amazing because the creature design looks amazing. The Windigo here, it's kind of cool, but it's one of those kind of cool where it's fast moving, blurry in the background. Here's a perfect example. There's a gunshot here where it's lit up for like a split second. You see it in these really barely there type of shots, quick moving, blurry, or only you'll see horns, and some of that I'm just over at this point. At this point, if you're doing a great creature design, the only thing that should stand in your way is if you have the money to show enough of it or not. There's no excuse to be a production like this and not just show us even a little bit. I'm not saying the creature has to go downtown in the middle of the day where you can see every little aspect of him, his ass crack and just he's mauling people downtown. But we need to see him more than just in the shadows and a blurry mess. And the third thing that got in my way, because again, the forced backstory with the sister or the brother, whatever, brother and sister, the creature just didn't. There wasn't enough of it that looked kind of cool. And then the ending. Now I found out after watching this, I thought I let me say this, and then if I don't know if I spoiled anything yet, but let me clarify. I'm gonna say this, and then we're about to get into some huge spoilers. So if you haven't seen it, go see it. But let me finish what I'm about to say real quick, and I'll wrap that part up. But the ending, once I was done with this movie, I found out. I told someone, man, I was a little bit disappointed. I recommend it, but it's nowhere near as good as it was. The ending, blah, blah, blah. Someone said, hey, it's based off a short story. And I heard the short story on audiobook on YouTube for free. And I liked the ending a lot better than the movie. And I thought, I'll check it out. So I popped it on. I was doing something, listening to the audiobook. I didn't enjoy the story as much as I Am Legend, for example, was a short story where I saw the trailer for the movie. I was so excited until it released. I read the short story, and I loved the short story. I wasn't in love with, I think it's called The Quiet Boy, the short story of Antlers. And so I wasn't blown away throughout the short story, but there was some good elements. The movie did improve on some stuff, like making the cop her brother. But then when it got to the end, I was like, oh, wow. I mean, that's a punch. You don't need to do these. Hollywood always pulls back with their endings, and they got to do something where they want it to have a happy ending, even when they do it a dark ending. Like, this has a dark ending. When I see it as a dark as shit ending, but it's not dark as shit. Because it's like off-screen dark as shit. It's ambiguous. Anyway, Hollywood just really fumbles at endings. Because I feel like they just, I don't know, man. They are so out of touch. I think the ending in the short story has a way bigger punch. And maybe in their eyes, they're thinking for a movie, no, it's got to be more shocking, more revealing, more. What they went with, I just don't think was more of anything. I don't think it was more shocking, revealing, interesting. None of that. I think they should have stuck more to or closer to the short story. Now, we're going to get into some spoilers, so just to double check, if you haven't seen it, I do recommend it. It's nowhere near as good as it was, but that might be a little misleading because it's not like the whole movie's bad. There's a lot of good, especially just the world. Visually, there's a lot that looks great. It's a pleasant, grimy visual, a grimy visual exploration of interesting small town rot. I don't know how else to put it without being spoiler free. I do recommend it though. But for me, the ending was it's a sissy way to do a dark ending. Now, we're going to get into some serious spoilers. I just want to mention, very beginning, the meth mine. I thought that was a cool touch. Having the teacher be the lead is one of those basic, they're either a teacher or a cop or a blah, 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 blah. I already got into that's not a deal breaker to me, though. Sometimes you need something like that. But the damaged past, I already covered that. What's up with creepy dads? Almost at the same time, me and my daughter said, yo, what is up with the creepy dads? This is like the 5th movie in a few months where there was a dad who's just a creep. Anyhow, the bro insists I'm a bit mixed on. Sometimes it works. Sometimes you want them to you vibe with them uniting a little more, because again, it helps with the flow of the story. If friction led to somewhere better between them, that would have been the best angle to go. But I think the story they're telling a little bit more union, because the way they did it just made her look like a complete asshole. There's a transformation scene which I thought that was pretty cool, minus the digital effects. When they do the digital blood, there's even one scene where they have this digital blood that I just thought was dumb. He attacks the school teacher, and yeah, right here. Okay, so he's attacking this school teacher, and this is the moment where he is just like lifting his head after ripping her throat out. Literally, we're right at that moment, and blood is starting to shoot out of this wound and go past his face and her chin and her nose. Now look, watch. Look, see, it's hitting the wall here. Even hit the box a little here. Her chin is in the way. This is the wound. It is spraying up this way. It's hitting her chin. Even when they get blood to look good digitally, sometimes the people doing it just think, oh, it's a clean wall here. The blood probably should have been on her arm here, squirted out. It probably should be pulsating and leaking all over her shoulder. But it feels like they said, okay, here's the frame. We have action going on here. We have a clean wall here in the frame. Let's have them. They probably set the shot up that way. And they were thinking like, we'll just have the digital blood. But when you fake it like that digitally, sometimes it just, this one pulled me right out of it. I'm like, how did blood go from here to on the back? That would be like blood shooting on the back of this wall. I'm like, what the fuck are you guys doing? I thought there was something else. Yeah, and the Windigo, I talked about this before. The creature is kind of cool, but it's hidden in too much quick movement, blurry darkness. And it does look a lot like the Krampus. Like Krampus was... This is when the Windigo is eaten. And, you know, it looks like a rotted, bony deer creature, which makes sense. That's all we see, though. It's like you start to see something, and that's all we see. But Krampus... See, this is badass. That is cool. That I'm like, okay. Even here, I'm like, okay. Now, this looks overly done with digital effects. I would be shocked if this whole scene wasn't just all CGI right now. However, Krampus has a similar, not as bloody, not as gory, but the idea is it's a monster wearing a Santa skinned face like a mask. And I love it. I love it. NECA is making a Krampus figure to go with their Sam from Trick or Treat. I did a Krampus Flauversall review, and I plan on doing one for Trick or Treat, who has Sam in it. He's the guy with the sack on his head. It's in an anthology. Check it out. It's called Trick or Treat. Anyway, it was made by the same person, Tim Doherty, I think. Krampus has that same look, and I think Krampus is way better, and it was done practical with Weta Workshops. It's either Weta Workshop. Funny enough, I showed off this Predator. Like, here's a... this was made by the same company that made Krampus for the movies, Weta Workshop. And the Predator, I think in my big review, or maybe this small review, I showed if your creature looks cool, you can put them on display on your desk at any lighting. Well, Weta makes that too, but Weta made Krampus practically, and it looks awesome. I love it. At any angle, it looks great. Here, it's the same thing. It's a demon-like creature wearing a skin face, and it just looks like a really high-quality video game. But that's as good as it gets. And I'll admit, that is fucking wicked. That is wicked. But that's as good as it gets for visuals when it comes to the creature. The end fight is... one guy gets stabbed, he's done. Another guy gets rammed, and he gets bitch slapped to the side. He gets rammed and stabbed in his arm, and then he gets rammed again or something like that, and that's it. And then she goes to straight up fight the creature, and she gets bitch slapped like 3 or 4 times, and then she ends up stabbing him. It's just underwhelming. So that was how they choose to end it. But at the very end, they pull this dark ending where she has to stab the possessed child, and they do it off screen to a point where I was just out of it at this point. I get they were going for this emotional moment, like right here, even the sounds and all that, but just how they did it. I think most of it is off screen, or I forget it. They show his reaction. It just didn't do anything for me. And then at the end, he has the possession. She wipes it off his mouth, and her brother is coughing, and he's got it. He's got it on his hands, and I feel like that's what I call the sissy way to do the dark ending, because you have the moment where it's like, oh, see, and I feel like there's people in Hollywood in a boardroom actually having this conversation where they can say, see, we can still do the dark ending. But the people who like the happy endings, they're not with it enough. They're not clever enough or smart enough to understand that this is actually a downer ending. They're possessed. So according to what we've seen, they're going to turn into what the father and son, that little boy's brother, what they were like. So they're going to be locked up, chained up, craving meat, craving to eat and kill and turn into the Windigo beast. That's what's coming next. That's why this ambiguous dark ending is just stupid. Just keep it similar to the short story and have it to where she's dead. The cop shows up. In this, it would have been cool if it was her brother. Give him an action moment, but then have her, get back to the house with the kid. They do the attack on the house, and then the brother shows up at the last minute. Maybe he was somewhere else dealing with something. He could have been dealing with the one son that was possessed. It doesn't matter. But he shows up, and his sister's house is gone. There's parts of her body. I forget. In the short story, it was like parts of her body was maybe she was missing, but there was a whole bunch of blood. But it was a dark ending with balls. Same thing for I Am Legend. I Am Legend, I was so excited for that movie, and I read the short story before I watched the movie, and then I was really hyped because the short story is fire. And that's why I'm convinced Hollywood just doesn't have what it takes when they get these fire short story endings that really hit. Because I Am Legend I enjoyed a lot better than this, even the short story, which again, it's called The Quiet Boy. Watch it on YouTube, but I Am Legend, it's vampires, not zombies. Anyhow, he essentially gets betrayed. But his humanity betrays him because he takes in this girl and her daughter, and he wipes off makeup and he realizes it's not a girl and her daughter, it's a vampire and her vampire daughter. So she opens up the house because he's barricaded. The vampires get him, they throw him in jail, and they're building a gallows to hang him. And they tell him he is the very last human. He is a legend. They're going to celebrate. This is once they kill him, that's it. So it ends on that ambiguous but very dark. He is a legend. He's the last human, and he's about to die. Done. What does Hollywood do? They do this stupid shit where they get a cure, and they get the mother and daughter with the cure, and they run off to find other humans, and he sacrifices himself. There's an alternate ending, so I don't know which one you saw. They're both dumb as shit compared to the short story. Hollywood just fumbles when it comes to, it's not about, I don't know, man. Maybe they'll never learn. Hollywood is behind the times, and it's funny because Hollywood's the people that are always preaching to us about what to do, but they're the last ones to get with the fucking program. That's why I don't listen to them, especially when you see a lot of celebrities talk about social issues. Like, get in the back of the line. You're the worst person to talk about social issues. Even when it comes to race, their racism, they're ass backwards. Like, corporate Hollywood was the people telling Bruce Lee that Americans don't don't want a Chinese lead in their shit. It'll never happen. It won't work. It won't work. So he goes to Hong Kong, blows up as a kung fu star. Meanwhile, that's corporate Hollywood. That's not America. America wanted Bruce Lee, and they wanted a lot of Bruce Lee. Because once they got the sight of Bruce Lee in Enter the Dragon, it friggin' exploded. And then, or I think it was something else that led to Enter the Dragon, but then Enter the Dragon exploded. And then it was Bruce Lee mania from there. Unfortunately, he passed away, but my point was, the people were saying, we want Bruce Lee. Hollywood was saying, nah, I don't think so, because they're always behind the times. They have their head up their ass, yet they think they're leading the way. Same thing with this ending. They had their head totally up their ass, and they botched an ending. If they would have changed just 3 things, or tweaked 3 things, kept an ending with balls, gave us, you don't have to show them all the time, but give us a creature that looks freaking awesome. Even in the daylight, he looks friggin' awesome. Show him a little bit more, and incorporate a little more just meat with the creature. And then the forced weird tension with her and her brother, do something with that, because it's clunky, and it's like it's there to take a break from the main story. That's how it feels. Anyway, that's my thoughts and opinions for Antlers. I did enjoy it, though. I know I ranted at the end. I did enjoy it, but I felt it could have been a lot better than it was. And it feels like something was forcing something that didn't work in the story, but also they were scared to give like a really solid, dark ending. And that's exactly what this movie needed. All right. Thoughts and opinions in the comment box. I'm done talking. It's your turn.